Yep.
Okay, hello. Welcome to another episode of Game Over. Today, Dan and I will be discussing what we want of this coming series of Game of Thrones, Season 6, which broadcasts April 24th. I'm stoked for it. The trailer's just come out, and the big question, obviously, the one that everyone wants to know, Jon Snow,
Let's just get this out of the way.
is he coming back?
I think he is, but at the end of the series.
As anything else, or just as himself? Because a lot of the speculation is he'll be a wolf, he'll be a White Walker.
I think he'll be himself. The show would lose a lot of its human side if they had, in the end, the way it looks like it's going, just having a wolf as the king. If Jon Snow comes back as a wolf, let's say, and all this other conspiracy malarkey is true, we could end up with an absolute farcical situation.
Since Jon Snow was killed, maybe, like the makers of the show and Kit Harington have all come out and said he's definitely dead. He's 100% dead.
They have to say that, don't they?
I mean, they can just lie. Like they're not. They don't necessarily owe us the truth. But we've seen the trailer. It goes down to Jon Snow's body, and Jon Snow is just too big of a deal to just be dead. You know, everyone's like, he's basically fucking magic. We don't know who his parents are, which is something we're heading towards this series. We're getting flashbacks for the first time ever. We're going back to when Ned Stark and his boys went to the Tower of Joy to get Ned's sister back from Rhaegar. So hopefully we're going to get some answers. If Rhaegar and Lyanna are Jon's parents, we'll find out this series. But Jon Snow is basically too special. I mean, there's a bit in the books, which I haven't read, where Melisandre says, I looked into the flames and it showed me only snow. So, then I saw a man and then a wolf and then a man again. So what if that's Jon Snow? Because we know that the Starks are... The cold doesn't bother them anyway. They have some affinity for wolves, I think, as well. They can walk into them. And we're seeing that with Bran. And just generally in the show, what we're seeing is magic coming back to the world. That's what the show's about. That's why there was the green meteor thing. You know, we've got dragons, the White Walkers, who are basically magic. We've got Melisandre, who for a long time we've been like, is she just having Stannis on, or does she really believe this? And this new trailer we've seen, she said, I looked in the flames and it was all wrong. Everything the Red God told me was wrong. So at last we see that she really does believe this shit.
I thought, I took that to mean that she was just lying the whole time. Because she said, I looked in the flames and saw defeat, isn't it? Something like that, she says. So does that mean she was stringing him along? I don't know why, because it can't just be a troll. But it's how it seemed to me.
Maybe. I hope the show doesn't spiral out of control, really, because...
Oh no, it's kind of built its reputation on grittiness. And trying to be a kind of fairly realistic interpretation of the kind of medieval attitudes. And yeah, if we just get too much magic, too many people being resurrected, it's just going to lose its meaning completely, I think.
I mean, this video is predictions, but it's also what we want of the season, and hopefully for it to indicate of the show generally. What do you...
My main issue with the previous series is that there was a lot of kind of non-action going on. There's a lot of filler. There's quite a few episodes, really, where we were just talking and people were going, oh, they might do this, oh, we might do that, oh, is that going to happen though? We don't know. Stop pissing about and let's get towards this war we've all been promised. Particularly on Daenerys' side. She's decided, do you know what, I can't be asked to go and invade, I'm going to sit here and rule what's basically Persia.
Which probably is the better choice. I mean, that's the thing.
It's not what's meant to be happening, is it? Really.
Plus, she's got dragons.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen prophecies and visions and all this of like a dragon over King's Landing, so we know it's happening. Just when? Because there are people who watched Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, who are like, so Daenerys joins everybody else, right? Hasn't happened yet. We're on Series 6 and it hasn't happened yet. Daenerys has so little to do with the real meat of the story, the War of the Five Kings, the Game of Thrones, as it were. The only reason Daenerys is in the show is because she's like, my dad was king once, I should be queen. No, alright? I mean, I really don't like Daenerys. I think she's a thoroughly horrible person. Sure, she's like 13 or whatever, and she has never had this much power in her life before. I understand that, but her claim to the throne is when Robert's Rebellion happened, they stole the throne from my dad. Well, that's literally how conquest works, bitch, so...
Yeah, but that is also how claims to a throne work. If your dad was king, then you were king. Or queen, in this case.
But by right of conquest... Plus
no, I get you, but that's the point of why it's also stupid, isn't it? Because no one's claim's legitimate. They took it off someone else, and people who they took it from would have taken it from someone before them.
I mean, everybody acknowledges that Robert took the throne by right of conquest. And Daenerys' great-great-great-great-many-great-grandpa, the first king of Westeros, was Aegon the conqueror. So let's not pretend that any conqueror is worse than any other. Aerys the Mad King was killed, and Daenerys and Viserys had to go.
Flee.
They had to go, and Rhaegar was killed. So the next in line was killed, and upon fleeing, the Targaryens had to abdicate the throne. They are not the royal family anymore. So Daenerys' claim to the throne is shaky at best. She has to accept that her right to the throne is that of a conqueror and not as someone whose birthright it is. Is Stannis dead?
I took it to mean that he was. I mean, it would be a bit shit if he's not, because that's the whole point of Brienne's mission, isn't it, to top him?
True, but we didn't see him die.
I think it was just cinema language, if you'll excuse my pretentious term.
Of course not. You're on screen with me.
That's a good point. But I think it was just to be a bit more artistic than literally showing his head getting lopped off, you know?
Yeah.
He's a character we know and have a bit of respect for, I think it's fair to say. So he doesn't get the indignity of just being a smushed up corpse.
My problem with sort of Game of Thrones at the moment, it's not a real issue, but it's a problem I have with Orange is the New Black as well. That all these sensible, good, down-to-earth, rational characters are dying or going to prison. You know, so with Stannis, him and his clenched jaw, he's gone now. Ned Stark dead, Robb Stark dead, Tywin Lannister dead. Spoiler alert.
Jon Snow dead.
Jon Snow. So what we're left with is a lot of irrational women, basically.
Just a vacuum of likeable characters. We're pretty much just rooting for Tyrion, but I think he might be the device by which Daenerys is brought to Westeros eventually, because he's the one who has the passion for it all. I would never remember the bloke's name. What's his name?
Varys.
That's it, Varys. Him and Tyrion being part of her camp now is going to be kind of Frank Underwooding and wormtailing her into an invasion.
Well, the truth is that Varys wants a Targaryen on the throne. That's his... Do you remember that scene he had with Oberyn, where Oberyn asks him, what are you into? And he goes, I'm not really into anything because I want to focus on the throne. Varys doesn't want to be king. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. But he wants, obviously, to get the right person on the throne, and he's gone over to Essos to support Daenerys. So he's obviously supporting the Targaryens, which is fine, and Daenerys has the capacity to be a good queen, just not at the moment. But with Tyrion and Varys in her corner, people who know the Game of Thrones, like sure she has Jorah and had Sir Barristan, but they're fighters. They don't know about.
Which is not going to happen for very long anyway.
Yeah, they're not politicians, whereas Tyrion and Varys are. But it's Varys that I'm interested in.
Do you think he's a goodie, or does he have an ulterior motive?
I think he always has an ulterior motive, but it seems of the characters that are available, he has probably the most honest motive.
So he's the kind of lesser evil.
If you can even call him evil.
Onto evil. Mm-hmm. There's a character who's been conspicuous by his absence, both kind of in most of the series and this conversation. Mm-hmm. Baelish. What do we think?
Well, in the trailer, we see him standing by a tree, and so in the snow. So he's back in the north, and his deal was that I marry Sansa to Ramsay, so then Roose the Moose and I can have some sort of deal. But now Sansa's escaped with Theon, presumably to the Iron Islands, so Roose's end of the deal and Baelish's end of the deal haven't been held up, because Sansa's gone away. Where the fuck is she? So I reckon Ramsay he's not going to get flayed alive or anything like that, but he will... He's
going to get a bollocking, certainly.
At least from his dad. So I do want to see some comeuppance. And I think that's going to come from the directions of both Baelish and Roose, because Ramsay fucked up for both of them.
Is it that kind of show, though, to give someone a comeuppance?
Yeah, I mean, every action has consequences. Some people just get away with the stuff. So it varies. But with Baelish, what do you see as his endgame?
I definitely think he wants to be king. He's got that chip on his shoulder. He's got that Machiavellianism. He wants to go right to the top. And I kind of hope he does.
But I've never really thought that he personally wants to be king. He's a schemer, and he's got people in places, but he doesn't quite have the respect from people that a king should have. Like no one's looking at him going, yeah, him, because Tywin had that conversation with Tommen in series 4, where he says, what's a good king? Is he wise? Is he strong? Is he holy? Is he all this? And Baelish has kind of known those things.
But I like the comparison you made between Baelish and Frank.
I mean
Frank themselves, because they are the same character. They're the kind of poor person with a chip on their shoulder about it, who just wants to get to the top to prove that they can.
Well, this is what I said to you when you were selling me on the idea of House of Cards all those months ago. That I was like, is House of Cards just Game of Thrones if Baelish were the main character? I would kind of like to see Game of Thrones where Baelish is like, well, this is my scheme this week, guys.
Any other predictions or expectations?
HBO has said that he wants Game of Thrones to go on for as long as it can, but I believe the plan is 7 seasons. We're on series 6, or season 6.
Yeah.
So what I want, most of all, and you did bring this up earlier, is just some sense of an end game.
Yeah.
Because we've got, as you said, a lot of pissing about, a lot of people being, I want this, I want that, let me kill these people, let me kill that people, let me do my schemes and things. But just, what's the point? And maybe that's the nature of history and conquest in general, that just shit happens and eventually someone comes out on top. But it's a TV show. It's a narrative piece. You know, it has to go somewhere.
It does have to have an end.
Who would you like to see on the throne? However unlikely, you can say Jon Snow if you want.
As in who does my gut say, or who do I think would be best?
Either.
Oh, this is tough. I think I like Baelish for it. He's the cleverest one, in my opinion, and I think that makes him best qualified. Whether or not he'll abuse that power horribly
which he
is
definitely
another
will.
argument.
See, I don't support Daenerys' claim to the throne. I don't support Daenerys, but I do support the idea of Daenerys on the throne on condition that Tyrion and Varys are in her corner. The series has been so bleak and so unrelenting. Maybe we as viewers deserve a good king or queen. Just one who's not horrible, basically. Because at the end of this, at the end of Series 7, we want to go, cool. Game of Thrones is currently 6 seasons, and it needs to end and just call it a day.
Yeah,
like with The
we need
Sopranos.
to start seeing a conclusion soon. We want a Breaking Bad, not a Dexter.
That's exactly it. And I think that is probably all we can say on the matter now. We're looking forward to it, and I will be keeping on top of the written reviews of the show. We will try and do a weekly video discussion as well about it, because the thing about Game of Thrones is that everybody just loves fucking talking about it. But until then, we will see you the week of April 24th. Thanks for listening.